Are you ready for a malicious compliance story? Here we go. It's titled, Don't Want to Pay 4 Guys to Not Work for 6 Hours? Okay, you can pay 30 guys to not work for 6 hours. To make an already long story as short as possible, some background. I am a manager for a North American railroad, and a lot of our work involves different crafts of employees. Different craft have different unions and different work rules. The managers of the other crafts and I work together well to get done what we need to get done, especially when some of the work needs to get done at nights. The track guys can have a crew assigned to nights, while the signal guys can't. Even better, the signal guys who work overnight have to be let go after 12 hours, and if it's now their regular shift because they came in last night, they get paid the rest of the day to go home and sleep. Track guys have all 3 shifts, but we only have a day shift and an evening shift, but no night shift because the big hats don't want to hire enough people to do it. Now, the company has decided that paying guys to go home 2 hours early on a Thursday, come in and work overtime all night at 10 p.m. and go home at 10 a.m., get another 4-hour pays to go home and sleep is ending. All of that is good and pure in the universe and will eventually lead to the collapse of capitalism, the nation, and indeed the universe itself. So they decided that the second shift guys have to stay 4 extra hours and the first shift guys have to come in 4 hours early. I point out that 1, I can't force employees to work overtime unless it's an emergency, and the union isn't likely to agree that we want to do this at night so we don't affect traffic is an emergency. 2, not all employees are qualified on the same things. 3, since they took half of my trucks away 5 years ago because savings, I don't have enough vehicles for an entire second crew to show up at 2 a.m. and relieve the guys working in the field so they can go home. The guys currently working will have to stop work, pack up the tools, drive back to the office, let the smaller relief crew load up, drive back out to the work site, do the starting paperwork and briefings, and begin the work. And most importantly, number 4, that while we aren't there, the track guys can't work because we have to keep taking things off of the rail so the track guys can do their work and then put them back when the guys are done so we can run the trains in the morning. All of it fell on deaf ears because the freckle-faced college kid who opened every conversation with, I have an MBA, damn it, who has somehow gone to a position where he's in charge of the estimate wants to complain about those 24 hours a night. So after having gone on the meeting record for all of it, I get out of the kid's way. I decide that if my boss isn't going to have my back, I'm not going to stop this inevitable disaster. After all, I have only been doing this for 27 years, but he graduated with a 3.6 GPA from a up teen, so he must know better. So the first night, the job grinds to a halt like clockwork at 1 a.m. The second crew shows up at about 4:15 and they get to work. The track folks pack it in because by the time anything gets dismantled, there won't be enough time to get anything done and put it all back together to start moving trains by 7. Second night, the shift change was a little smoother, so they got out of there at 3:45, managed to get a little work done before packing up. Third and fourth night, it rained really hard, so the drive back to the shop and out to the job site took extra time. No work done after the new crew showed up at 4:30. Bright and early Monday morning, we showed up at our morning meeting to find that the track guys got about 30% of the work done that they planned for the week, and at this pace would finish a 6-week job more than 15 weeks behind and over budget by more than 300%. Mr. MBA proceeds to launch into his carefully rehearsed speech about key metrics, percentage spent versus percentage complete, and all sort of other nonsense. Then he decides to start in on me, since I obviously conspired and colluded with my employees to irrigidly erode progress for an entire week. I held up the meeting minutes from the previous week, told him in no uncertain terms that he had asked, in fact, demanded that we have a full shift change in the middle of the track department's work. I looked across the table at him, asked him if he wanted to revise that position. Completely unwilling to let this lowly engineer tell him what to do, he said no. And I was supposed to somehow magically make the shift change faster. Next 3 weeks were the same story. They've now been out there for about a month and have managed to accomplish just a shy of a week and a half of work. Mr. MBA shows up on site one night just in time to watch my night guys walk off, watch the track guys shut down the machines and gather outside to smoke, hang out, and generally carouse because they know they now have 3 hours to screw off and be paid for it. My guys had called me when Mr. MBA showed up, so I got out of bed, get to the job site just in time to see this guy in his shiny, fresh from the package safety gear, screaming at the top of his lungs to get the guys back to their equipment and get the bleep back to work. They all refuse because they all know that they can't work without us there. Now, not that they care all that much about our equipment, but because they know Mr. MBA has been throwing a little too much weight around and nothing makes union employees stick together better or faster than putting the screws to a manager who really needs it. I walk up during a profanity-laced tirade and cut right in and said, "Well, Mr. MBA, I'm sure you're not suggesting that these qualified employees violate rule number blah blah blah, which clearly states that they shall not under any circumstances run that equipment through a switch that the signal department hasn't checked. Now would you?" That would be a serious violation and could get him a 30-day suspension without pay. And if you were to suggest that he do that, you wouldn't have a union card in your pocket and he would have 30 witnesses that saw you give him that directive. So you wouldn't be suggesting that now, would you? He turned 3 shades of purple, stomped back to his little white company sedan, and drove away. He held on to his makeshift shift change for another 2 weeks until he couldn't hide the massive production delays from his boss anymore, and suddenly he wasn't in charge of the estimates anymore. The total cost of his little venture? Just over $940,000 over the course of 6 weeks. But he did manage to save $700 a night on those off hours that he didn't have to pay for. Wow, what a wonderful malicious compliance story. This is what you get. This is a perfect example where people who are in higher management decides to make changes without knowing how things are really run by the people who actually do it on a daily basis. They need to really listen to the inputs of the people who actually are on the front line doing the actual job, not some hypothetical theory type of thing. And you know what? I cannot believe this. Mr. MBA says, "Oh, I'm the big shot. I run things because I got an MBA." No. Obviously, you don't know the first thing about this whole situation. Anyways, I'm glad that the OP stood up for his crew, came up with proof during the those meeting minutes, showing that Mr. MBA is saying, "Hey, you should change things." Why change things when things are running smoothly? Mr. MBA just caused his own issue, his own problems. He just created it all by himself. And now, this is what he gets. You are behind schedule for the progress. You wasted a lot of money and a lot of time for the stupid venture that you thought that it would be better. And I hope Mr. MBA has learned his lesson. Anyways, what do you guys think of this story? Let me know in the comments section. And remember, if you like these types of stories, to continue to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys later.